What's up, boils and ghouls? It is July 2026. That means a bunch of new horror movies just hit Tubi. You can stream them for free. I'm not going to give you an intro explaining why I'm making this video. I'm just going to tell you the horror movies that are new to Tubi July 2026. The Blackcoat's Daughter. This comes from Oz Perkins, who did Longlegs, he did Keeper, he did The Monkey, and this was his breakout movie that really put him on the map. The Blackcoat's Daughter focuses on two girls played by Lucy Boynton and Kiernan Shipka, and they are staying behind at a boarding school during the February vacation. Meanwhile, we see Emma Roberts playing a character who's hitchhiking, and she's picked up by a couple of parents, and we don't really know what the hell's going on with her. We just know she has some sort of mysterious backstory. Strange things are going on at the school, and I won't ruin what all of this is building to, but if you like the atmospheric dread of Longlegs and just the overall creepy vibes, with the added bonus of it just being very, very cold to watch, then you're going to like The Blackcoat's Daughter. Don't be afraid of the dark. If you like Guillermo del Toro, you're going to like this movie. Maybe it's because he wrote the movie, but also because it sort of captures the vibe that he explores with a lot of his movies. It's about a young girl who has to go live with her father and her father's girlfriend, and it's in this big mansion, and as she's exploring it, she gets to the basement and inadvertently opens up a passageway for little goblin creatures to come out. These creatures like to terrorize the people who live there, but have an affinity for this young girl. So they kind of want to bring her into their world of fantasy, but also hate the other people who live there. There's lots of vibes that are similar to Pan's Labyrinth, with that blend of fantasy and reality, blurring the lines between these worlds. It's much more firmly rooted in reality than Pan's Labyrinth is. The production design's not exactly the same. It's a much more bare bones, spooky, big house story, but it has those similar whimsical, fantastical, horrifying vibes that you expect from a Guillermo del Toro movie. Lamb. So this one might not be as outright horrifying as some of the other titles that I've selected, but it is very creepy and very weird, and I think it'll scratch an itch for some of you for a certain type of horror. It takes place in Iceland. It's about a couple who owns a sheep farm, and one day they come across this baby sheep hybrid thing, and being caretakers of animals, they don't just let it off into the wilderness. They decide to take care of it. Because it is so human-like, they just treat it as their own child. However, the longer this little thing stays with them, the closer they get to the origins of how this thing came into existence, and it is creepy as hell. Like Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, this sort of blurs the lines between fantasy and horror and reality, and it really reimagines some common folklore tropes in a unique and interesting way. On the outset, this isn't inherently terrifying, but if you watch the trailer and you just see this lamb-headed little toddler, I'm sure you'll be weirded out to some degree, and it's definitely worth checking out. Only Lovers Left Alive. I think Only Lovers Left Alive is easily my favorite Jim Jarmusch movie, and it follows two vampires who live in Detroit. They're played by Tom Hiddleston and Tilda Swinton, and they just have this estranged vibe of a timeless romance that has spanned easily decades, if not longer, and they're just enjoying their life in Detroit when all of a sudden Mia Wasikowska shows up as Tilda Swinton's sister, and she's a bit more reckless. It could be because she's newer to being a vampire, or because she was younger when she was turned into a vampire, but she's just a little bit more casual about how she sucks on blood, and that causes some problems for Tom Hiddleston and Tilda Swinton. This movie is really slow paced. It's got a really cool score from Squirrel, I think is how it's pronounced. The movie just has like a very cool vibe to it. It's like other Jim Jarmusch movies where characters are just kind of hanging out, but because these are ancient vampires, they just kind of take their time with everything. It's definitely a cool hangout movie. It's not particularly a violent affair, but the vampire nature of it all definitely does make it a horror movie. Man Finds Tape. Given that Backrooms has become such a huge theatrical success and that it ties into internet lore and lost analog media, Man Finds Tape is definitely going to be up your alley if you're a fan of Backrooms. It's about a man who finds a tape. That's just the beginning, though. Other things start to happen. The recordings on this tape are of a religious leader, and the man who finds the tape had previously pulled off an internet hoax. So as he's trying to dive deeper into what's on these tapes and what they mean and how they're connected to his own past, people kind of doubt the authenticity of what these tapes have on them. I imagine if you like Backrooms, you're going to like Man Finds Tape, and if I dive too much into what Man Finds Tape is about, I might spoil some things. But it's just this really bizarre, unique, surreal blend of found footage and lost media and analog horror and hoaxes and alternate dimensions. It's a very cool, very unique blend of all sorts of stuff. And now you can check it out on Tubi for free. The Witch. Most likely, if you're watching this video, you have heard of The Witch and you have some preconceived notion about The Witch. But given that Robert Eggers' new movie, Werewolf, just released its first trailer, what better time than now to revisit The Witch? It's about a family in the 17th century who leave their community because of their religious beliefs, and with this family living on the border of dark and mysterious woods, when their baby goes missing, they blame a witch. But whether it's a witch or something else, who really knows? Strange things start happening to their animals and just around their farm, and they don't know what the hell's going on. But, spoiler alert, there was a witch. Sorry, the movie is called The Witch, so yes, there's a witch. Whether you've seen The Witch or not, it definitely marks a turning point in horror, I think, in the mid-2010s, where we were moving away from found footage, and we were moving away from Saw, and we were getting what you might call elevated horror. And whatever you might think about elevated horror, The Witch just showcased a higher level of craft and care when it came to horror movies. That's something as simple as a story about a witch. The production design, the performances, the script, the cinematography, all of it was elevated from what you might have gotten in a Paranormal Activity movie. I was a fan of The Witch when it came out, and I am still a fan, so it's a great time to revisit The Witch, now streaming for free on Tubi. Under the Skin. Scarlett Johansson is starring in the new The Exorcist movie, and it's one of her only times venturing into the horror world. One exception, though, is this sci-fi horror movie from Jonathan Glazer. It's really weird. Scarlett Johansson is just kind of wandering from one scene to the next, and she plays an alien who seduces men, but she doesn't have to try very hard. She basically just picks them up on the street and drives them back to her quote-unquote house, and they get sucked into some black void, and this somehow fuels her. However, it does make her start to question the nature of her own being, so there are some bigger concepts at play here and just what it means to be a human, what it is to experience life. Music is fantastic. This whole movie is just weird, bizarre, mind for lack of a better term, and I think it's easily Scarlett Johansson's best performance. Enemy. Speaking of weird mind now we have Enemy, starring Jake Gyllenhaal. He plays a professor who is watching a videotape when he discovers someone in the movie he's watching looks exactly like him. He tracks this person down, and they agree to switch places and see what happens. The professor's a little more reluctant to switch places, and the actor is a little bit more demanding, but what the hell are you going to do? They are two identical people who are just dabbling in each other's lives. Enemy was one of Denis Villeneuve's early English language efforts. He's obviously gone on to do Blade Runner and Arrival and Dune movies. He's one of the most acclaimed filmmakers of his generation. So it's really cool to see where he got his start. And the movie is just awesome, and it looks great, and it's just weird as hell. So if you like weird as hell horror sci-fi doppelganger movies, then Enemy is one you should not miss. The Woman in Black. This is one of Daniel Radcliffe's very early post Harry Potter movies, and it is very criminally overlooked. It takes place in Victorian times, and Daniel Radcliffe plays a lawyer who is sent to an isolated mansion to settle the affairs of the person who lived there. But shortly after his arrival, spooky things start happening. This movie doesn't really reinvent the wheel when it comes to gothic, haunted farmhouse type of movies, but it's just really fun and really effective. If those type of movies are up your alley, I don't know why you would want to overlook this one. Daniel Radcliffe is a great actor, so he really sells the isolation of his character and his initial dismissive thoughts on what the hell is going on in this supernatural situation. It's just a great haunted house movie set in Victorian times that is worth checking out on Tubi. The Monster. This movie came from Brian Bertino, who had a breakout smash success with The Strangers. I think if you're a horror fan of the past 20 years, you know about The Strangers, but you probably don't know about The Monster. The movie follows a mother and daughter who have to make a trek during the middle of the night during a pretty horrible rainstorm. The mother has her own issues with alcoholism and dependency on drugs, so there's already a strained relationship between the two of them, and it just immediately sets you on edge because the characters are also on edge. And as they are going into this long drive, their car stalls and ends up on a dark, scary, spooky road, and they are targeted by some sort of creature. You don't really know what it is because it's mostly shrouded in darkness. This is just a really well done, creepy creature feature that I think I automatically engage with when you see this tense relationship. It's very similar to The Strangers in that way, in that when we first meet the characters in that movie, clearly there's some underlying tension, and it's the same thing with The Monster, albeit a different type of tension, but that tension does just immediately set you on edge before anything scary happens at all. And then when you add a monster into the mix, you just get a pretty tense, fun monster movie that's not the traditional take on a monster movie. So those are my picks for the 10 best new horror movies that you should be streaming on Tubi in July 2026. If you liked this video, make sure to like and subscribe and comment down below. Let me know what you thought of any of these movies or what you're going to be putting on your watch list. And have fun streaming horror on Tubi.